serious. Okay, so we had a couple more tools to get through. Talk about the text tool and a few other things. Um, what I'm probably going to do, which I think worked pretty well, was last period. I basically just took a side of the box and kind of went through step by step and designed it like I would if it were mine. Um, and I think that that's going to be the best way to demonstrate this. So quickly, I'll get through the rest of these on the toolbar. The pen tool. Well, I guess before I should start, did anyone have any questions from yesterday? Probably not, because you probably haven't thought about this or looked at it. What? No, but you're close, so I'll give it to you. Dodge and burn and sponge are all together. Dodge makes things lighter, burn makes things darker. Sponge tool affects the saturation, the color saturation. You can either make it more or less saturated in an area. Okay, that's the sponge. All right, the pen tool basically creates points, and if you create more than one point, it will connect it with a line. If you hold down the button while and drag while you have this down here, it's going to create what's called a Bezier curve. If I continue clicking all the way around, it will create this path until I get to where I started. Now I can take this path, I can stroke it with an outline, I can fill it with a color, I can also put text on it. All right, if I right click, I have all these options. I can fill the path, stroke the path, turn it into a selection, etc. All right, you probably won't need to use this, but I'm just showing you just in case. The one cool thing is here on the text tool, if I get the text tool and click on the path and start typing, it'll go along that path, if you can see that better from the front of the room. Okay. So that is the nice thing about working with a path. A path is basically what's called a vector, which means it's based on a mathematical algorithm. It's not based on rasterized pixels or whatever. So that probably means nothing to you, but if something is based on a vector, like in an Illustrator program, you can make it the size of a business card or the size of a billboard, and it will still retain the same amount of detail. Whereas with pixels, it's all based on resolution. There is really no resolution when it comes to vectors. All right. So I can just get rid of that. All right, let's talk more about the text tool. You're going to be using this one a lot, so you need to pay attention. All right, it's the letter T right here. I would just stick with the horizontal type tool. I call it the text tool, it's really the type tool. If you click and drag this, it will seem like it's making a selection, just like the marquee tool. However, what this actually is a text field. And you can type inside this. Let me change the color of this so it shows up better. All right. Up top here in the options bar, you have a few areas. This is where you can select your font. There are all kinds of different fonts that come with Photoshop. I have also included in your folder a bunch of comic-based fonts that you can sample from. All right, so very quickly, If I go to that folder now, and I go to, maybe it's in Happy Meal Assets. No. What did I do with that folder? Maybe it's in the L drive. Hold on a second. Check. Because you guys should have a copy of this once you copy everything over. All right, well, it's definitely in here called Comic Fonts. See all these fonts in here? If I double click one of these, it's going to show you a sample of what the font looks like. If you actually want this on your computer, all you have to do is go up here to where it says install, and it will automatically put it on your font. It's called CC Rumble. So now when I go back to Photoshop and I search the alphabetical list, there it is. It's now showing up, CC Rumble. So now I can actually use this on my box. Let me make it bigger so it shows up. Okay. And whenever I type inside this field, it's only going to go within the confines of this field. If things don't fit, like right here, where the rest of the word is cut off, I can simply make this bigger, like so. So that's the great thing about the text field, is that you can change the shape of it even after you've added type. All right. Once you are happy with this, you simply click off of the tool, and it just becomes like any other editable element. But you can also, while this is active, select, change the font to something else, change the size, change the alignment, center it, or align it right or left, change the something else, make it light blue instead. Okay, whatever. You can also warp the text, change the style to arc or something else. If you want to, undo it. Okay. Then when I'm done, just move it around to where I want it to go. Okay. You can also combine this with other elements like shapes. And I'll get more to that in a minute. All right. So this is something you're going to be using a lot of. You're going to have a lot of text. So you need to kind of figure out when you are sketching your thumbnails, where are the text fields going to go? What kind of content is going to go on your box? All right. Few other quick tools here. The line tool, which is bundled with the rectangle and ellipse tools. These are just going to render shapes that are, again, vector based. I'm going to create a new layer. All you have to do is click and drag. It's not showing up because it's blue on blue, but it's going to fill that with red because red is my foreground color. So it's automatically going to fill the shape. Now I can move this over on top of the text. I'm going to move this layer below the text. So you can, make your text stand out by putting shapes behind it. All right, so the shape tool is really handy for that. What it also does is it creates custom shapes and lines as well. So you can go to the line tool and hold down shift for straight lines, and you can make linear elements for your for your boxes if you want. All right, it's all on the same layer right now. Okay, you can also go back to your initial shape and, outline it or do other things to it. All right, so that is the line and shape tool. The hand tool is basically just a way to navigate through your image instead of using these little scroll bars on the side and the bottom. You just kind of click and drag and move this around. Okay. And finally, the zoom tool, which is basically just you zoom in and out of your image, right? Hold down Alt to zoom out, or you go up here to the options bar and you can switch between zooming in, zooming out. I just use the hotkeys, which are Control Alt plus to zoom in, Control Alt minus to zoom out. Okay, so delete these layers because they're no good. Any questions? Now, I don't think I did a paste into with you guys yesterday, did I? I did. So I showed you how to put the image, paste it in. Okay, good. I was wondering about that. And I told you about, make sure that when you're doing this, you're not just taking someone else's art and not doing anything else to it. You still need to make a design out of it. You need to add other elements on top of it. You need to change colors. You need to edit this in some way to kind of make it your own, right? Add puzzles. And I use this as an example for my other classes where like you're taking the cityscape, I change the color of it, I change the background, I'm, adding text to like the sides of the buildings and stuff, putting characters on top of it so that it's becoming something different. Okay. Good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one side of this box as an example, and I'm just going to create a design. All right, let's say that I've already got my sketches done. I've already thought through what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, and I've got all my assets saved to a folder. So I've gone through Google, I've searched and found some nice high-res images, or I have found them from other sources. Like I went out and bought some comic books or something, and I scanned them in, and so I'm using my own assets. Either way, because sometimes Google, you're not going to find exactly what you need. All right, so I've got my folder here with all of my stuff in it, and I'm going to just start designing. So I've got my color filled in, but now I need to start thinking about, okay, what is my restaurant? What is my theme? How am I going to start creating a design using those elements and principles of design, something that looks good, but also defines my theme. All right. So I'm going to get a few things here. Last period I did Wendy's. Before that I did Burger King. So Arby's. Why not? I'm going to get my Arby's logo. Notice how it is already behind a white background, which is very handy. I have chosen well when I found that logo. I'm going to get a couple other things too. I'm going to grab this bat. I'm going to grab the logo, and I'm going to grab a few of these characters. Grab this maze too. I'll do something with that. Bring it all over in the background. Okay, so first things first, I have my logo, which again is behind a solid color, which should make it super easy for me to click with the magic wand on the background, then go select inverse and either do a copy paste or just get the move tool and drag it right on there. I don't know what that little weird thing is in the corner, but I'm simply going to select it and delete it with the delete key, Control D to deselect. Okay, so now I've got my logo. I need to think about, is it on top? Is it on bottom? I would put it on top. All right. I'm not really crazy about the yellow text here. I'm going to go in and actually select each of these letters. And I'm going to change them to red. I've already got red selected. I'm just going to do a simple edit fill. Hit OK. Now I've got red letters. I think that pops better. Now I'm going to minimize this. Let's do our restaurant logo. I need to separate this from the background. So once again, I'm going to click on the white. I'm going to hold down Shift to add to the selection. I'm going to go in between the letters, in between this little R here. Select inverse. Now I'm going to drag this over. There's my Arby's logo. It's too big though, so I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale, make it smaller. Doesn't need to be huge. Hit Enter, get the Move tool, move it up. Maybe I'll put it over here. Hopefully I would have already sketched this out and established where that's going to go. But you can change things up a little bit too. Don't feel like that you have to be a complete slave to your sketches. You can alter things a little bit if you need to. All right. We've got to think about what kind of activities are on our box. I'm going to do a maze. Now the thing about GIFs, this is a .gif. It's an index color image. For some reason, Photoshop does not like for you to drag GIFs over. See that little no symbol it's giving me right there? It's not going to let me drag this over. So I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to have to do Control A to select all, Control C to copy. Then I'm going to have to do Control V to paste. And there's my maze, and it's kind of small, so I need to make it larger. Go to Edit, Transform, Scale. Let's make this bigger. All right. Maybe that's too big, but for now, that's fine. All right. Now, I have had students in the past that would consider this finished. They would say, okay, I got an activity on there, it's done. And I would have to try to explain to them that this really is not a good design. There's not enough there visually to make it interesting. I think the maze with the white background looks kind of tacky. I'd have to really try to explain to them that you need to take this further. All right. So hopefully you guys can also see that more needs to be done to this. For example, in order to get rid of the white background, I can do two things. I can either select it with the magic wand, which may or may not select all the white. In this case, it did. And then just hit the delete key, like so. That worked. Now, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Another thing you can do is up here where it says normal on my layers menu. This is the blending options for the layer. If I change it to multiply, watch what happens. It automatically phases out the white and only focuses on the darker values. That's what multiply does. So just a little trick that you can do. I'll switch this back to normal. And I'm going to go back to my initial thing of deleting the white because I want to do something else to it. Okay. I want some kind of characters or something in this. There's a couple things I could do. For example, I could put the maze inside a bat symbol, or I could try to do something a little more creative. All right, Shazam is coming out in a couple weeks, the movie. I'm sure you've seen the commercials for it. Shazam's not Batman, but he's on the cartoon. Again, I found these online. Someone made these really awesome looking chibi style super deformed characters, so I'm going to use these. I'm going to pick Shazam. I'm going to drag him over to my box. I'm going to make him bigger. Edit, transform, scale. Make him bigger. Hit enter. I'm going to get my magic wand. Select the white, delete it. Anytime you paste something and you have like a like a white background, you better have a good reason for it, because otherwise it looks kind of bad. I think this looks much better. Okay. Now, right now, Shazam is above the maze, but if I take the layer, I'm going to go ahead and actually name this maze. And I'm going to name this Shazam. And I'm going to just drag that layer beneath the maze like that. Okay? Now, sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. This is a case where I'm not really digging that too much, so I've changed my mind. I will put Shazam over to the side and figure out another use for him. Let me go with my original idea. Now, look at this image here. You see this checkerboard pattern? That means that the background is transparent. There's no color back here. This is an isolated, this image has already been isolated. So I don't have to do anything to this. I can simply drag it right over and it's already cut out. Okay? So that's cooler. Let me make this a little bit bigger, but I don't like the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bat a little bigger. And I'm going to take the maze and scale it down so that it fits inside. And you got to be careful when you're stretching things out like this, because it looks really warped if you do it too much. So I'm actually going to stretch this out a little bit more. And I'm going to go back to the bat and stretch it out. So that the maze basically fits inside this bat shape. That doesn't look too horrible. Since it's just a shape, it's not that obvious that it's been stretched. But I do want to change the color, so I'm going to get the magic wand, select this, and I'm going to go with, I don't know. Let's try yellow. Do edit fill. It's okay. But already it looks way better than the maze by itself, right? So now I'm going to go in and do some other stuff. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to select Batman here. I'm going to bring him over. Select the white. Delete. I kind of want him pointing the other way. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And now he's facing the other direction. And because there's no writing or anything on here that's going to look backwards, you can't tell. And then I'm going to take Shazam here. Where is that layer? Shazam. Move him over. Actually going to move him up too. Shrink him down as well. Put him down there. I can grab some other characters and start to populate this with other stuff. Okay? So already you can see that I'm not just taking an image or two and sticking it on there and calling it done. I am really thinking about elements and principles of design, color, shape, negative space, illusion of depth, and trying to come up with a new design using existing assets. That's really the most important concept I want you guys to understand. Okay? I'm going to add some more shapes. I'm going to get the elliptical marquee. I'm going to create a shape here. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to fill this with a red. Go to Edit, Fill. Oh, I got to hit OK first. Edit, Fill. It's going to fill this elliptical selection with red. Okay. I want to put this down here underneath Shazam. Maybe have him poking out of it a little bit. I'm going to go to put another one of these behind Batman. Now, instead of having to redraw and remake another one of these, all I have to do, I'm going to name this red circle. If I go up here to duplicate layer, remember like we did the other day with the background? Duplicate layer. Hit OK. Now I have two of these. I've got to find Batman. Move this down. Remember, I can right click on an element and it'll tell me what layer it's on, layer 18. So right here, I should have named that when I made it, Batman. So Batman simply needs to go above the red circle. There you go. All right. And because these two are kind of the same thing, I can have them on the same layer. Watch this. I can simply go up here and go to merge down. And that's going to take those two circles and put them together on the same layer. Okay. So I can keep doing this. I'm going to add some more text. You know, I can say something like, help Batman find his way to Shazam or something, you know, and add some text in there, put some other characters in there. Um, and you can do something else called layer style. That's probably one of the cooler things about Photoshop that I like. All right, so let's say on these circles, I want to add an outline. Now I could try to select these individually with the wand and then do an edit stroke, but a more efficient way of doing it is to double click on this layer. Not on the name, because it'll think you want to rename it. Go over here to the side, double click. Window's going to pop up called Layer Style. You've got a whole bunch of options here. Inner shadow, outer glow, etc. Click on Stroke. All right. And it's going to probably default to the last thing, which is like an kind of outline. If you want to change it further, double click on that particular bar, and you'll see you can change the size of the stroke. You can change the color. If you want to do something more like purple or light blue or green, or, you know. You don't want to put too many colors in. I kind of liked where it was with the orange, honestly. Okay. Hit OK. You can do some other stuff too. You can add a drop shadow, which is kind of nice. Drop shadow basically pops things out and makes it look like it's 3D. You can also change the angle that the shadow is in. You can do it from like the top or the bottom, the side. Kind of liked it the other way. All right, so now you're getting the illusion of depth on that. See how that pops now? I want to add a stroke to this bat. Layer 17. Double click on that, bring up layer style. Let's go back to stroke again, but let's change it from outside. Oh, it's on center. Let's change it to inside. Change the size. Change the color. Hit OK. All right, see how that's starting to come together now. All right, so layer style can really take things to the next level. Another thing that I want to talk to you about really quickly are filters. Okay, you guys should remember the filter gallery from back when we did the Stipple project. And I had you guys put filters on your photographs. I'm going to create a new layer. And then I'm going to get the gradient tool and change to more of an orange, because orange is a complement of blue. Now I'm going to go get my magic wand, go back down to, remember, you may always make selections on your background copy. I'm going to click that so that I have this selected. I'm going to go back up to layer 18 right here. Now I'm just going to take this marquee tool and I'm just going to drag, not marquee tool, gradient tool, and I'm going to drag and make some color spots. Nothing fancy. Just going to kind of drag them diagonally. I'm also going to do a little bit on the bottom, going from the outside in. Now I want to create a little bit of just some texture on here, just because I don't like all this flat color. So I'm going to go to Filter, Filter Gallery, and I'm going to go to Halftone Pattern, and I'm going to kind of create some like comic booky halftone dots. Hit OK. That looks pretty good because it's set from last period when I did this. All right. Now, the only problem with this is that it's kind of on top of all my other elements. So I'm just going to take this layer and drag it down a little bit so that it's underneath. There we go. All right, now that's starting to come together a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit, I need to fix this Arby's logo because now that's lost. So I'll probably need to do some layer style on that too. If I feel like the halftone stuff is too much, I can go up here to where it says opacity on the layer. I can push it back so that it's more subtle. See, I kind of like that better, right? So already on this box, I am using several different elements and principles of design. And I have just taken already existing things and rearranged them, thought about shape, thought creatively about things I could do with some of these elements to make them my own and make a new design out of them, which is the point of this. All right. Again, if you are just taking a single image and sticking it on there that someone else did, and you've only got a few layers and you're not really thinking about stuff, then your grade is going to be pretty bad on this assignment. Okay. One final thing I want to show you in these last few minutes is the masking, select and mask tool here. So let's say you have nope, that's not it. I'll just open it from over here. Let's go back to one of our images that's on a background like this. Always Robin. Let's say I want to have that Robin kicking on my box. So I remember I showed you the other day how to use the quick select tool to go in and quickly find the edges of this element. So you can kind of cut them out. What you'll find when you use this tool more often than not is that when you bring the selection over, please stop squeaking that. All right, it'll take a minute to kind of get this all selected. But if I were to go in and kind of copy and paste, what I'll probably find is a lot of uneven edges. Let's try it. Bring him on the box. He's behind all this other stuff, that's why. There he is. All right, now if I zoom in on him really closely, you see all these weird artifacts and uneven edges? All right, I don't want that. So a way to get around it is if I go back to this, I'm going to select something called Select and Mask. And what that's going to do is allow me close this out. See how it's kind of grayed out the background? I can zoom in now on parts of this and change the smooth slider, the contrast slider, and the shift edge slider, which will move the selection out or in a certain number of pixels. And that's going to clean up the edges and make it a lot better, especially if I hit smooth. I don't really do anything with feather. All right, now if I go in and paste this, it's going to look a lot cleaner than what I had. Okay, so that's basically the last thing that I need to show you. I mean, there's other stuff we could go into, but at this point, I think you have the gist of it. Any questions? The bell's going to ring any second. Tomorrow, I want everyone to have their sketchbooks in class and their computers. And you're going to have some time, if you haven't already, to think about what theme you're going to use and to start compiling assets and sketching. So make sure you are ready to start brainstorming and sketching tomorrow.